Good morning. Good morning. I'm very glad to be here doing a meditation with you. I do my meditation every morning earlier. Sorry. I think I need some water. Not a good moment to have something in your throat. I do my meditation every morning, and it is wonderful to be able to share the meditation with you. Very often I have the thought in my mind that I would like very much to do these meditations daily with you. It's just that I don't have enough equipment and possibilities, and it takes quite a bit of time for me to prepare, to have a space and to prepare the light. And if it were a bit easier, I would love to do it, just to not to do such a different meditation like we do on Wednesdays, to have a more the meditation that I do is often the same one every day. I don't change them so much, which basically is just being with myself in silence. Anyway, this is something similar to what we are going to do today. We spoke about this before. There are, one way to say it is that there are two different moods, two different spaces in which we can exist. And one way to say it, this is nothing of what I'm going to say is really the truth. It's just a way to express it. It cannot really be expressed. But one way to talk about this is with two spaces that we can be in, and one of them is doing, and the other one is being. So we can speak of the space of doing and the space of being. In reality, they are not separated. There is only one thing, and then everything comes out of that one thing. But that's one way that we can talk about it. And so doing is basically our mind, is basically being in thought. And our thoughts are always moving in our head, and these thoughts are always pushing us into doing something, into moving forward, into creating, into developing, into getting more and acquiring and constructing and doing. It's like a force that comes from the past. It's like a force that comes into us, and this force comes in the form of thought in our mind, and this thought pushes into activity. And then there is the other mood, which is just a name, but we can call it being. And this being is the recognition of space, the recognition of silence. Neither space nor silence are being, but in being we recognize space, we recognize silence. It's a space in which we feel at peace, we feel content, we feel satisfied with what is, as it is, because it is. It is really the opposite of doing, because in doing, there is always the need for more. There is always the moving, the acting, the creating, the developing, the evolving. It's always something more, always something more, always something more. And no matter how far we go, there is always the possibility to do more. And that's not a problem. It's not a problem in itself. Not at all. It's what allows us to evolve, it's what allows us to create. The problem is when we only live in the mode of doing, and so there is no peace. There is these fleeting moments of peace, which is when we get what we want, and so for a few seconds, for a few moments, we are content. But very soon, the force from the back is going to come again, and it's going to tell us, okay, you got that, but there is more, and there is more, and there is more. So true peace is not just getting what you want. That's okay. That's wonderful, actually. But that's not peace. True peace is being, is independent of how much I may have to keep doing. This moment is enough in itself. This precise moment is everything that needs to be, needs to happen. It's a recognition that this moment is the totality, is the end. Even if there is more to go, and there is always going to be more to go, but being is the recognition that this is it. So these are the two moods, and they need to walk equally. They need to go together. Without being, when there is only doing, there is no peace. There is always this agitation. There is always this anxiety. There is always this stress, because there is always more to get, more to go. And no matter how much we go, we can see that there is so much more to do that in the end, it becomes very frustrating. That's why the most people, the older they get, the more frustrated they get, because they can see how little really they have done in their lives, no matter how much they do. So we need to reconnect with being. And meditation is one way, one of the many tools, a very important tool that can help us to reconnect with being. And the way we are going to do today, this is just a practice. The way that we are going to practice today is we are going to connect to silence. And then in that silence, many thoughts will come, many thoughts, and that's okay. But the practice is going to be the choosing between the thought or the silence. That will be the practice. Again, silence is not being, but there is silence in being. Silence is like very close to being. Silence is like to come very close. But silence is something that we can try to practice. Being is not something that we can practice. It's more like an understanding. Because being is always here. Right now there is being, it's just that we don't recognize it. But anyway, that's another subject. What I would like to, for this meditation, is we are going to come into silence little by little. We will first start to go into the sounds, then we will come into the body, then we will come into the breathing. And then from the breathing, we are going to jump into the silence. And then in that silence, there's going to be a lot of noise in the form of thoughts. And these thoughts, they're like little kids always screaming that the house is on fire. You know, the feeling of the thought, there is so much to do, so important, we need to do it now. There is this pressure, this anxiety, this stress that the thoughts bring, like all that is like everything has to be done now. And so what we're going to do is, in the meditation, we are going to say to these kid thoughts, okay, I know this is very important. I know that I'm supposed to think about this thought. But right now, I'm going to choose silence. And in that choosing, the thought loses power, and silence gains strength. Again, when there is this choosing, if we have the possibility to choose silence over a thought, in that moment, the power of that thought will lose a little bit, and the strength of silence is going to be gained. It's just a practice, but it's a wonderful practice. Because most of the time, thoughts win. Even if we want to stop, even if we want to pay attention to something that we love, like we may be in the beautiful landscape, in the beautiful garden, and we would like to inhale the sensations of being in the garden, the thought will come into our mind, and they will not leave us alone. Or if we want to experience the beauty of another person, the being of another person, and we want to pay attention to this other person, but the soul and practice is choosing silence for this meditation over thought. So this is the introduction. And we're going to close our eyes, and then little by little we will come into the silence. So just sit in a comfortable place, keep your spine long, open the chest, relax the shoulders. Make sure that the neck is long. Like this, my neck is long. If I am like this, my chin up, then all the weight of my head, which is about 7 kilos, will stay here in my neck. If I keep my neck long, then the weight of the head goes down to the trunk. In this case, to the floor. If I am standing, it will go to the feet, and from the feet to the floor. So try to keep your neck long, the spine long. Open the chest, relax the shoulders, close your eyes. Put your hands in a comfortable place, and this is quite important, to find a comfortable place for your hands. It could be on top of your knees, on your thighs. I usually prefer to put one hand on top of the other one, and put my thumbs together, or cross my fingers and put my thumbs together on my lap. That's what I usually do. Close your eyes. And simply start to connect with this moment. It's really a new moment with the eyes closed. It's like a different world in which we enter. Just remember that it's very rare for us to be with the eyes closed and awake. It happens when we try to fall asleep at night, that we close the eyes and sometimes the mind is so active that we cannot sleep and so. But right now, we are really awake. It's not our intention to fall asleep. And our eyes are closed. So it's a completely new experience. It's a new world. Pay attention to this world. You hear sounds. Bring attention to the sounds. Try not to get too lost in the sounds, but pay attention to them. Notice that a sound may come, and then the sound will go. Another sound may come, like my voice, for example. And then the sound will go. Just notice that. Again, relax your hands. If you notice the hands are moving, try not to move your hands. I was reminded because my hands, I found my thumbs starting to move, playing with each other. Hear the sounds. Now just slowly start to connect to your body. The body is also something that appears in this moment. When I mention the body, probably the first thing that comes to you is an image in your mind about your body. We spoke about this last meditation, that we connect to the body through an idea. But the body with the eyes closed right now is not an idea. It's a living experience. And this living experience, it doesn't have a shape or a form. The shape and a form that my body may have is all in my memories. I saw my body before by looking at it, or I saw it in a mirror, And that, together with all my ideas about what is good, what is bad, what society thinks about the body should be, this combination between what I saw plus what I heard creates an image in my mind. And then when I think of my body, what I see is the image instead of seeing actually my body. So try to put aside this image, this idea, this memory, and instead connect to the actual body, to the living experience of your body right now. The image may want to creep in because that's the only way we are accustomed to think of our body. Just try to, for a few moments, keep it out and instead connect to the actual sensation of the body, this living experience, this sensation, this vibration. See how to try to experience the body as it actually is. It already bring us closer to silence. Notice what we call the legs, but put the name away right away and just connect with that sensation, that vibration. Notice your hips, but put the name away and then connect to what is actually there. Notice your trunk, but forget about the shape, forget about your idea of the trunk, and just try to go to it right now. Like a sensation that is continually changing, continuously moving. Notice your arms and your hands and your fingers. The fingers are much easier to feel, to sense, especially the tip of your fingers. You can feel a lot of energy there, like a very clear vibration. The whole body is vibrating like the tip of your fingers, but it is more clear in the finger than anywhere else. Notice the upper body, your chest, your shoulders. But drop the name. Drop the name and just connect to what is there in this moment. Notice your neck. Notice your face. we have a clear image of our face, or a clear idea of how our face looks like. But try to put that aside. Just connect to this beautiful vibration in your face. There is so much nerves ending in our face that it is also a place where we can feel a lot of sensations. Relax your lips, your eyes. Notice the head, but drop the label head. The sensation of the whole of the body, not as an image, but as an aliveness. And notice that in this aliveness, there is breathing happening. You notice the air coming in and the air going out. Now, just notice the beginning of the breathing, of a breath. Notice that it has a peak. And then after that peak, the exhalation starts. The exhalation also ends. And the new inhalation appears. All the way up to a peak. And then the exhalation starts. All the way to the end. And try to follow that. Notice the beginning of the inhalation. Notice the peak of the inhalation, which is the beginning of the exhalation. Notice the end of the exhalation. And then again, notice the beginning of the inhalation. And just stay there for a few seconds. Just follow the breath. Don't try to change the breath. Don't try to make it deeper or longer. Don't change it at all. Just simply follow whatever breath is appearing. Just let the breath happen on its own. You just follow from the beginning to the peak, to the end of the exhalation, and then keep going. Inhalation, exhalation, continuously. Just follow for a few seconds. Now, notice that when we pay attention to the body is like a more heavy energy, and it is somehow easier to grasp. Then from the body, we move to the breath, And the breath is lighter than the body. And so it is not so difficult to grasp, but it's slightly more difficult than the body. Now, from the breathing, you're going to jump into silence. Silence is a much more finer energy. It's also an object, it's also something that can be grasped, but it is much more difficult to grasp. Grasping just means holding your attention in an object. First, we hold the attention on the body, then we try to hold the attention on the breath, and now we will try to hold the attention on the silence. If you feel that it's too slippery and your attention gets lost too easily, then come back to the breath. The breath somehow is easier to grasp. So return to the breath, spend there a few seconds, and then from the breath, make this little jump into the silence. And try to stay in the silence. Remember, if you feel it's too difficult, the silence, just return to the breath. Now, when you're in the silence, many thoughts will come. Choose to stay in the silence. Remember, the thought will tell you, this is very important. You need to pay attention to me. Maybe a thought about a person, maybe a thought about a situation, maybe a thought about something that will happen in the future. It may be a thought about something that happened in the past. But for this space of a few minutes, decide to stay in the silence. It's a decision. But don't spend too much time in that decision, because the decision is also a thought. Just don't spend much time in the decision. Make the decision and return to the silence. Remember, the decision is also a thought. If you need to, if it will help you, go back to the breath for a few moments. Just spend some time in the breath. Stay there. Notice the air coming in and the air going out. And then from the breath, jump to the silence. And then choose to stay in the silence. Just please remember, we are not condemning the thoughts. The thoughts are not wrong. The thoughts are not bad. The function of the mind is to think. And our mind is the most amazing, beautiful machinery that is being given to us. We are not condemning the thoughts. We are just deciding that at this moment, thinking is not what I want to do. And thoughts are like little kids, they don't understand. They want the attention. They want the attention now. But you, as a grown up, you explain to the thought, I'm sorry, right now I'm doing something else. The something else right now is silence. Even if the thoughts take most of the space, even if there is 1 second of silence, that already is, is a wonderful meditation. Just return to the silence, second to second. Just choose the silence in this moment. Return to the breathing. Connect to the air coming in and the air going out. Now, for the last 2 minutes, I'm going to take you to another space closer to being. I will just ask you a question. Who is aware of the breathing? And even more important, who is aware of the silence? Just notice that you are aware of the breath, and then go to silence and see that you are aware also of the silence. And just notice this awareness. The thing is, to say notice this awareness is not correct, because to notice the awareness you need awareness, and so it will be awareness noticing awareness, which is okay to say, but it's not really what is happening. Just be the awareness. You are aware. Just be this awareness. Notice the silence. Notice that the silence is an object that can be paid attention to. You can pay attention to the silence. You can pay attention to the breathing. But you cannot pay attention to awareness. You can only be that awareness. Just very slowly. Allow more air to come in, more air to go out. Just let more air come into the body, more air leaving the body. Start to move your shoulders, start to move your hands very gently. Stretch your body, stretch your arms. When you want to, open your eyes. Move a little bit your shoulders, move a little bit your head. We have a few moments if you like to ask a question or comment something about your experience. You don't have to think too much about what we did in the last 2 minutes about the awareness. That's more complex. I didn't have to bring it. The meditation was about the silence. So if you got a bit lost about at the end, don't worry for it. It's a much more complex thing to grasp. Because awareness is something that is the only thing that you cannot pay attention to. You can pay attention to anything else. You can pay attention to a galaxy far away. You can pay attention to a thought. You can pay attention to an emotion. You can pay attention to silence. You could even pay attention to space. Like right now, if you look around, you see your room, and somehow you can pay attention to a space. It's very difficult. It's like silence. But still, you can pay attention to space. But you cannot pay attention to awareness. So that's another subject. If you have any comments or questions, one thing I recommend you, in the middle of your everyday life, in the middle of your busy day, bring this silence. And just for a few seconds, choose silence over the next thought. You can do this meditation through your everyday life. Do it, practice it often. Bring this silence. And choose the silence over that one thought. And then, of course, you will keep thinking. That's what we need to do. That's what practical life is. Alexandra wrote, after this kind of meditation, suddenly my day or life doesn't seem busy anymore. It's beautiful. The thing is that usually our busyness returns. And that's okay. It will return. It will come back. The moment we step out of the meditation, the whole of the busyness of life will return. But when it does, even in that busyness, even for a second, come back to the silence. Come back to the silence, and for example, if you have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, in that silence, taste the coffee, taste the tea. Notice that when we are very busy, we drink coffee, we drink tea, and we don't even notice the coffee or the tea. But in silence, you can perceive the flavor. Take a few seconds to do that, or if you're walking on the street, take a few seconds to, in silence, notice the sky. Notice the colors. Notice the people walking around. Sometimes in silence it's very strange because you see a very busy world moving and vibrating, and then in that silence you see yourself. It's like something that stops for a second and everything else keeps moving, It's a very strange sensation. It's a wonderful moment. Okay, so if there are no questions or comments, thank you very much. Please give it a like. I enjoy seeing people that it's like a way to tell me that you enjoy the meditation. And practice on your everyday life. Practice in the morning, even for 5 or 10 minutes every day. Do a short meditation. Exactly, Dana. We are awareness. That's why we cannot pay attention. You cannot pay attention because to pay attention to awareness, you have to step out of awareness. But you cannot because you are awareness. So exactly, that's a very good way to say it. So that's what being is. You are. Is that recognition? Is the recognition that you are. That's being. But it's not something you can pay attention to. It's only something you can be. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again. There will be a class in the evening, more of a talk about presence. And tomorrow, Thursday, we have the yoga class, or on Saturday. Thank you. Hope to see you soon. Have a nice day. Be safe. Ciao.